Hi everyone, and I'm really excited to start my first live, and I'm going to be basically hosting about different answers. So let me know if the sound is pretty much clear, so I can really be relaxed about that. And just someone say sound is good in the chat, so I can really see that everything is fine and nothing surprising. Um, so let's see if the first live is okay. Um, Sound is good. Great, perfect. All right, so I want to basically say that I will try now to do more lives just for answering your questions, because I know that there are a lot of questions that I did not answer by creating videos about them. So for example, we are going to start with the most obvious question that everyone asks, which is Django versus Flask, and I will start explaining my opinion on that just in a minute. But I just wanted to say that the culture of basically having different things than basically just random tutorials is something that I really want to do. So let's start. And I saw some comment about more volume could be nice. So let's try to maybe fix this out before we go ahead and start answering the questions. So we know how to raise the volumes of our microphone, and now I think it should be a little bit better, I suppose. And if not, then I will try to basically speak louder. All right, so the first question that I like to answer in that moment is Django or Flask. Now, before I go into examples, and I might have some example or two to show about the differences between those, um, I don't think it's a question of what I should use and I should omit the second one, because knowing both of them is always good. And from my perspective, I can say that I started to learn Django in about 2 years ago now, and I can say that the fact that I started with Django made me a lot easier life starting with Flask. And I'm not sure what is the experience of everyone that is in the chat right now, but feel free to comment out what do you know among the two. So it will be nice to have a nice chat going on there. So say that you know Django, then say that you are comfortable with Django, and you can also say that you are not comfortable with both of them. And I'm sure that there are people that didn't start to learn about those frameworks. Now, in some situation when you basically having the basics of Python, when you just complete a tutorial or two, then there's always the question, okay, what's coming next? And then we kind of ask ourselves what we should learn. So I don't think that you should basically waste time about thinking what you should start with and basically just start with one of them, because both of them are quite similar. And I'm going to talk about the advantages of Flask over Django and Django over Flask. But anyway, the main point of this question, or the answer for this question, I mean, will be just to pick one and start with it, because I did not search when I started to learn Django what should I start with. I just liked the name Django more and started with it. So I didn't have any videos that I watched that explains which one of them is better, and that's it. So what I like Django, why I like Django more than Flask, basically the fact that Django has a built-in authentication system is really making our lives easier, because Django has it, and with Flask you have to code it by yourself. So if we actually take a minute, then I'm sure that there are some people that watched my series about Flask. But anyway, with Django, applying the authentication system takes only one command, which is basically python manage.py migrate. And what it does, it basically automatically the command that you run right after you create your project, and it creates everything ready for you related to the authentication system that I talked about. But when we talk about Flask, then you have to create it by yourself. So if we actually take a closer look to one of my latest series that I basically created a Flask tutorial on, and this is exactly what was published 2 days ago in Free Code Camp, then I want to just you to take a look what it looks like to create authentication system with Flask. So let's go here for a minute and locate the question like that. Okay, so as you can see, now I'm inside the project that we developed when basically you saw the tutorial. And you can see that we have, now if I go to modules here and scroll up a bit, then you can see that I had to create my authentication system by myself. And I had to define those IDs, usernames, email addresses, password hash, and everything that is related to creating an authentication system. But with Django, it takes one command. So this is why sometimes I like Django more rather than Flask. So let me just go back to full screen so I can speak cleaner. Now I can say that sometimes I like Django more over Flask because it has a lot of things that are built in. So, but anyway, just go ahead and start with one of them. And one more point that I like to say about the differences between each one of them. Basically, the built-in stuff is the biggest thing in my opinion, but nothing else than this authentication system is quite different. For example, if you want to pull all the objects of some module that you created, for example, you want to create a website that is going to store information about your daily tasks. So you have to create this model to basically simulate a database table that creates the information for you. And so the commands to interact within this database table now is quite the same with both of the frameworks. So with Django, you will say book.objects.all, and with Flask, you will say book.query.all. So this is why I think that basically it should not be a question what to start with, just basically start with one of them and go ahead. And I want to see if you have some comments in here about this. Thank you for the stream. You're welcome, sure. So yeah, Flask is more lightweight and easier to use in my opinion, but if you're serious and want an amazing website, use Django. I can say I agree with that, just program, and nice name by the way. I can say that I agree with this one, but yeah, so this is basically the point. If you want to only create a website that is going to store your daily task, or you just want to do something without having this complex authentication system, then go with Flask. But if you say that you want to have more based system that is going to relate with authentication system, and you want to automate your users by logging them with Facebook, Instagram, or GitHub, there are some websites that you basically authorize to them with your GitHub account, then I will go with Django, because it will take you a lot more time to deal with this when you use Flask. So this is what I might say about the differences between those. And I want to see if you have some more opinion about this. Right, great. So I see some questions coming here, but I want to first answer the questions that were commented in one of the videos that I created 2 to 3 months ago, where I just summarized the entire 2020, and then I will go with your questions for sure. Okay, so I think this will be about my opinion between Django and Flask. So the next one up is a question and by the way, this question was by Code with Tommy, so thanks for asking the question. Sorry that I mentioned you a little bit late. And now I want to go to the question of Top of Tech, which is when to use multiprocessing or threading. So I'm going to be honest here, I never used multiprocessing yet, so I don't really want to say something that I'm not sure about it. But what I can say is that you want to use threading to efficient your programs when you have very certain and specific tasks that you want to complete at that moment. Because if you think about it, the difference between a thread and a process is basically the fact that you can have multiple threads within one execution of Python, and it is going to be only one process. But when you multi-process your program, then it is going to create a lot more processes on your computer. So I want to basically share my experience with threading because this will be the library that I use more. And with multiprocessing, I have to admit that I used it only once or twice here and there, but the main experience when I developed some serious projects was with the threading library. So I'd really like to show you the differences, what will happen if I execute a basic program with threading or without threading it. So to do that, I'm going to proceed to the another screen just in a minute. And yeah, I think we got it here. Okay. So here is the project that I want to show here. So we have something that basically scrapes a basic website. And while I was drinking water, then basically I just want to give you time to read the code here. Okay, so we have this run this function that basically executes a request.get command and prints the status code of the result. And this is a website that I already know, so this should return us 200 always. And then I go ahead and use for_t in range 10, and then I use basically the threading.thread, and my target obviously is the function, and then I pass in as the argument here the number of thread, which is going to be 0 to 9 every iteration. And then I start this my thread basically, and it is very simple program. Now if I run this, then the result of this program will be probably very short. And I want to explain why this happens. Now I'm not going to talk about the ordering right now, why we saw this 8 in here, because this is a way another topic, but we want to focus now on the type of task that this Python launched. So there's a difference between a CPU bound task to an input-output bound task. And the main difference is that when we talk about a task that is not dealing with computing something with the CPU, then it is considered as input-output bound task. And if you take a look at it, now my task is basically to request something from an external website. So this doesn't have anything that deals around with having a large amount of tasks in the CPU. So this is something that is considered as input-output bound task. And this is because I fire a task with the request.get and I try to pull the information from this website and I only wait for a response. So this is why it is considered as input-output bound task. And in that exact case, you want to use threading because there is no point to basically use a CPU bound task with threading. And what that means, it means that if you want to create a program that is going to write a lot of files to your computer, or it is going to calculate something very complex mathematically, then you don't want to use threading because it is just going to make it heavier on your computer. So this is my opinion about when you should use threading. But in another case, you might consider using the multiprocessing when you basically create CPU bound task, but it really depends on the hardware that you own in the basically the computer. Yeah. Okay, so I just noticed that I forgot to change the question, but it's okay. I think that you are all understood that we are talking about multiprocessing or threading. Okay, so if you have any questions about threading or multiprocessing, then let me know. And I just want to read the comments from Just Program. Threading uses different threads of the CPU. Multiprocessing just gets around the global interpreter lock, at least from what I know. Yeah, so I want to create a separated video about global interpreter lock because this is a topic that personally I had tough time to understand as well. And definitely a good point that it's a wonderful idea to raise here. Great. If you don't have any questions about threading or multiprocessing, then I just think that I can go with the third question. All right. Great. And so the next question that I want to talk about will be how often I will publish DevOps videos. So you may notice that lately I stopped creating videos about Python and I just created a video about Docker, 40 minutes length, something like that. And the reason I have done this, it is because I work as a DevOps engineer right now, so I feel the most comfortable with basically sharing my knowledge related to this entire world. And for those in the chat that not quite familiar with the term of DevOps, this is basically the surrounded world around web development or any product development, basically not just web development. But if you think about it, when when you have a company that develops some software, then there are the developers that developing this program, which let's say that it's a website with Django. Okay, let's take a familiar world. And then you have to think about some stuff that is related to automation, to deploying this application to production, or to basically generate environments which will be considered as development environments for the different people that works in the company. So you want to automate those stuff to basically have a faster life cycle of development and improving your application. So this is where DevOps comes in and create their job. So this is exactly what DevOps does. So it is basically everything that is surrounded around website development or any product development, whatever it is. And it is basically the methodology of creating an automation or for the production or for a development environment. So for example, if I'm now creating a Python script that takes the Django project from my GitHub repository and clones it to a separated environment and launches it with its own unique configuration, then I am doing DevOps because I'm basically doing some development operations that helps another guy that it now has its own separated environment and it is not a production environment. So it is very important to basically understand the differences. You can't go and change the code in the production because it has to come with a lot of testing and it's very risky to change the code directly in production. So this is why DevOps comes in, and one of their tasks could be to basically create some development environments. And now we are safe to work because we have a lot of clones of that website that I talked about earlier. And this is what DevOps does. And the question is how often I will publish those kind of videos. Well, my main niche is going to be Python, and I'm not going to create only DevOps videos from now because I created this Docker video. So it is very important to understand that. I want to keep Python the main niche of this channel, but I also like to create DevOps videos here and there just to basically share more from my knowledge because I'm close to now 3 years of experience in DevOps, so I really feel like I want to share my knowledge about it. Yeah. So some more comments. I should learn Docker, how to use. LOL, I might watch that video after this stream. And we have Shahid that says, I have seen you in Free Code Camp channel. Yeah, that's something that really satisfies me, absolutely, because I really feel like someone that is considered as probably the biggest channel, and basically the owner of it, which is Bill Carnes, sees me as a good candidate for someone that he can publish those videos. So I really feel great with that. All right, so now I'd like to go over your questions here and see what I could answer of them. So let me minimize this in and read the chat a little bit. So I see a question from top of tech will you be doing an AI course in Python? All right, so I like that question. My honest opinion about artificial intelligence is that I feel like I have to practice this more before I create a tutorial on, because if you think about it, you have to reach some level before you teach it to someone else. And I'm not gonna lie, I worked a lot with a lot of libraries that deals with artificial intelligence, but I did not develop like some projects that I can say, okay, now I'm ready to teach AI and I feel extremely comfortable with it, and I feel extremely answering the questions in the comment section, and I feel comfortable creating live sessions on that. So I'm not there yet, but I want to be, and I want to basically go deeper in that world. So I might not expect for that to happen soon, but definitely this will go as the future plans of this channel. I definitely want to explore all the worlds that Python has to offer. So yeah, I might expect for creating AI tutorial, but like not in the next weeks. So that will be my point about it. Um, yeah, so I think I saw this question. Okay. All right, so I see a question from Xcode. What is the best projects to do to be ready to work for a big company like Google or Amazon, etc., as a Python developer or AI developer or data scientist? All right, so I want to give the best explanation for this kind of question. Um, all right, so basically having a strong portfolio is always a good thing. Now, I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't say something like the following. So you have one project on your portfolio and it is a very basic project. So you should work at this level of company. But if you have like 25 projects of Django and 10 of Flask and 5 of artificial intelligence, then you should go and work at Facebook. I don't think there is something like you should think something like that, but I definitely think that each company appreciates a strong portfolio, and each interview that you are going to have in the future, when you will explain and show your portfolio and explain your passion about programming and developing projects in any topic that you want, he's going to appreciate you back, because the most important thing, in my opinion, this is the thing that helped me a lot with my first interviews. I just wanted to show my passion about the programming world rather than selling something that I don't have. So this is the main important, would be in my opinion, when you search for your first job. And I believe that Xcode, yeah, I believe that you might ask this maybe because you are looking for your first job. And I will say that having a strong portfolio, like 2 to 3 projects in different areas, should be good for any level of company. But speaking about your passion about programming and explaining your state of mind correctly would really take you to a great place. So this would be my recommendation about it. And that's it. And I hope this helps you. All right, so let's see some more questions. And Xcode, if you want to add something else and have one more question back, then feel free to do. And I try to scroll down. Python is good programming language. Now, come on. This is what we do here. All right. So, yeah, but my honest opinion about Python, So yeah, I'm addicted to that programming language right now, and I don't see any programming language that is going to kind of get over in Python, because if you just search in Google now top 10 programming languages to learn right now in 2019, 20, 21, maybe 22, then you will always see Python in the first, maybe JavaScript, don't get me wrong, but Python will be in top 3. Um, so I really think that Python is a wonderful language. Let's leave the sarcastic aside right now. But I really think that Python is a wonderful language to learn. Now, some might say that Python is not the perfect programming language to start with, and this is because it is too easy to start with. And then what happens if you learn about Python? Let me show you an example of that. All right. We will do that with Notepad++. So we will challenge us a little bit. So writing a print line with Java, let's do an example of that. And I'm just trying to prepare my notepad in here, and I will go to my screen just in a minute to answer this question. I just have like 30 tabs open in my notepad, so I just want to close them off. So, alright, so let me delete the questions and also this one. Great. So I know it's white theme, don't get angry on me about that, but actually I'm not sure how I can customize to dark theme with Notepad++, but we will live with it. So printing something with Python takes this. Printing something with Java takes this. If I remember, don't get me, I think that I'm wrong, but I had some experience with Java. It takes this. And I think with C it's printf, something like that, or I'm not sure, but when you start learning a programming language like Python as your first language, yeah, I agree that it might hurt you sometimes, but it really depends on your goal. If you want to work as a machine learning researcher, then there is nothing wrong with starting with Python and go further with this language. But if you say that you want to work for a gaming company, then maybe I will say that you should not start with Python. You should start with a programming language that you are probably going to deal with more when you develop something that is related to game development, like C++, or basically any language that is more designed for gaming development. So it is important to understand that. But anyway, the main idea about this starting with any programming language is basically not so important, because a lot of programming languages having their own similarities. So each programming language has its if statements, and each programming language has its print functions. It is just remembering the syntax for each programming language that you learn. Now I can say that I started learning first C#, and then since I already had some experience with a programming language, then learning Python was easy. But it wasn't easy because of the syntax. It was easy because I already knew a programming language. So it is important to differentiate between this and that. And people tend to think it is easy to learn Python because you can print something with 7 characters, something like that. But it's still not that easy. Although the syntax is very clear, but learning programming is not easy. And personally, I try to do my best to explain all the terms in the most basic way. So the fact that Python has the most easy syntax among all the programming languages doesn't turn the experience of learning programming language to easier. So this is my opinion about it. So understanding the idea of programming is more important than trying to memorize syntax. So that will be my 5-minute explanation about, is Python a great programming language? Have you ever done freelancing? I tried to, but I didn't. So honestly, I didn't do any freelancing. I just like more the concept of teaching. But I also like the concept of developing some projects to someone else, but I did not done any freelancing. Although I have an account in Upwork and I like this product, and I also have an account in Fiverr, and both of them are basically the most popular freelancing website. You can check one of those, and I will add the link for both of them in my description if you like. Um, you are a great and humble man. Thanks a lot. Can I work as a, so Rami Droid, can I work as a data analyst even if I'm not too much passionate about it? I think you can, but I think it gives you like bonus points if you have passion about something when someone interviews you, because or basically when you just having an interview with someone that you want to have this data analyst job. It is just a good advantage that you passionate about something, obviously when you start with it, because if if I was a manager of, let's say, some DevOps team, then and I would want to hire someone that has no experience, I would want this guy to have a passion about this topic. But I don't think that if you don't have a lot of passion about it, this doesn't mean that you can't get a job about it, about the data analyst. So that will be my personal point. But definitely having a passion about something is always great, and it just also a great advantage when you have an interview. So I hope that I answered this question correctly. And Rami, thanks for asking. Really, I appreciate your questions, guys, and it really gives me a great opportunity to having a great discussion going on here. And thanks for answering my question. You're welcome. And Python is a whole new level. It's too good. Yeah, definitely. What is the best way to improve? Sorry, I think I missed that. Let's have a look. What is the best way to improve problem solving skills? Okay, I like that question. This one is basically, in my opinion, that will be by developing individually. And what I mean by that is, let's say that, okay, let's try to simulate this with Python. Okay, I want to simulate what is the best way to improve in programming and improve your problem solving skills. So I want to give an example of that here. All right, so now let's say that I know about the threading library, but I don't know how to start this program that is basically going to do this task 10 times. So I'm a little bit confused and I'm not sure how it works. So I will go and open my web browser and basically search about Python. Sorry about that. Python threading, like that. And now I will just try to see the websites that basically explains about threading. So we have the documentations, and then I will try to understand how I should work with threading. And if I also had some problem along the way, then for sure searching for that is the best thing. But if you think about it, you are doing this individually and you don't give up in the middle of it, and you also don't ask a help from someone that knows this perfectly and he solves this problem for you. So I also want to give an example of that in my first job. One of the things that I experienced in my first job is that people would help me to solve some problem rather than having the keyboard and solving it by themselves. Because the fact that you have a problem and you search for its solution by yourself, this is what is going to take you from some level to the next level. And this is something that always my belief about how I could improve with something, not especially with programming, but basically searching for that specific problem, but also make sure that the guy that helps you does not really solve this problem for you, and he just helps you with a clue or two how you can solve it. So that will be my belief about it. And as you keep doing this, you will see that the improvement will come. So I will go again, full screen, and read some questions. Okay, so as a one that launches his first live, I might have some delays when I read the questions because this is the first experience, and that's it. I just want to say that. Okay, so I was there. White theme, oh no, sorry man, sorry about that. This is the first and last time that I will use the white theme. Alright, already 4 hours in your Python video, slowly learning the language. Really liking it, but like everyone, I run into some struggles sometimes so I use Google to help me solve. Yeah. Listen, we can't ignore the fact that each developer, it doesn't matter 1 year of experience, 5 year, 10 year, 20 year, 30 years, we are going to use Stack Overflow and we should use it, and that's fine. This is what it's made for, and this is the platform that is going to improve us in programming. What is so funny about basically everyone that I used to think that when I learned Django from Harrison Sendex, one of the greatest Python channels ever, then I thought that, okay, he knows everything perfectly. But I believe that even a guy like Sendex is having some visits in Stack Overflow. So I just wanted to mention that. And Omer SH, thanks a lot for the comment, I appreciate it. And we got one more question here. Which language should I have learned? I want to be a freelancer. So I saw some posts about web development, and I think learning JavaScript could be something great for you, but that is only if you have a passion about web development. Because if you don't like web development as well, then maybe you should consider some different topic. But when I saw posts about some jobs that people want you to complete, most of them were related to adding features to their website. And for sure there were maybe some other things like deploying applications, and that is more related to DevOps. But most of the jobs that I saw in those platforms that I mentioned, Fiverr and Upwork, they had a lot of feature adding to their website. And I think maybe learning JavaScript could be a great suggestion, I think. Okay. So I just jumped to Just Program's comment because it was related to what I said before. Sentex searches up on Google sometimes on his vids. He definitely uses Google. Yeah, listen, there's nothing wrong with it, okay? It's okay, this is what Google is made for, and for sure more than that, but this is what the questions and answers platforms like Stack Overflow is made for. And this is why my Discord exists, and this is why the comment section exists in my videos. And that's totally fine to use external sources to solve problems. Alright, so I have an interview for a teaching internship and JavaScript tomorrow. Any tips? Watching videos about preparing to an interview could be great, because I know that sometimes there are very specific questions when it comes to basically programming questions in interviews. So watching some videos could be helpful, but just be yourself. If you are asking programming question-wise, then watching some videos about the most common questions could be great. But if you ask, what should I say when the interviewer asks me what I'm doing right now with my life, then just be yourself and give a basic explanation about a little bit about your past and a little bit about what is going on now, and as well as your future plans. Because I can say that explaining your future plans is something that the next guy sits in front of you is appreciates, because if you have some plans about the future, then it really shows that you know what you want to do in your life, and it shows good things about the life itself. So, but just be yourself, right? That's the most important point. And so this question was Raghav Gupta. So I hope that I answered your question. Do you have any recommendations for beginners projects? Tic-tac-toe and trying to create projects. If it's Python, then, or any programming language, it doesn't really matter, then try to create programs that are reading from Excel files. The reason I'm saying this because my first project had a lot of dealing with Excel files, and reading from Excel files and writing them back really helped me to getting better at programming. But maybe this is only me because my first experience was with Excel files, but maybe this is something just related to myself. But developing a basic game like tic-tac-toe and the other thing I said about Excel, or maybe a basic to-do application in web development could be helpful. Hello Jim by Bahdev. So hello, and it's great to have you here. So one more question from Arzo. I wanted to ask you if I would release a video on Scrapy. I watched your beautiful video on FreeCodeCamp. That's how I came to your channel. So, yeah, I know that there are more libraries that are dealing with web scraping, but I can't say which one of them is better because I worked a lot with Beautiful Soup, and I worked a little bit with Scrapy or Scrapy, however it's pronounced. But yeah, creating a video about this library is definitely a great addition to my channel. And thanks for coming to my channel from FreeCodeCamp. Definitely a wonderful thing. That video was great. Thank you. Okay, so we have Kartikeyan S, which I also know him personally from one of the greatest comments in the web scraping video, and I will leave you curious about that. If you want to see his comment and you are a football fan, then go to the web scraping video. Hi Jim, which has an easier learning curve, Flask or Django? It's hard to say. I don't think I am a right guy to ask it because I had a difficult time learning Django, and I'm not sure why. And I'm really not sure why. Maybe it was because I did not understood the basic concepts of Python before I learned Django, and that is why I created this what you need to learn before Django video. And anyway, I answered this in the beginning. It doesn't really matter with which of those frameworks you start with because it has its similarities, and basically the only advantage I see Django over Flask is that it has some built-in utilities like the authentication system and the admin page. Now, this doesn't mean that you cannot have an admin page and the authentication system in Flask, but in Django it takes only one command, and with Flask it takes more code to write. So those are the differences. And I would say that Flask was easier to me because I already had an experience with Django like 18 months, but this doesn't mean that Flask is easier to learn rather than Django. But I would like to say that if you don't know if you are ready to start with Django, then I have a video that is this one. So I will zoom in a bit, And I know that you can see my subscriptions, and yeah, I subscribe to Free Code Camp, Francesco, wonderful guy, and I'm okay with it. Yeah, and obviously for the programming channel legends like Corey, everyone that is dealing with teaching Python, and really awesome guys. And so the video will be, I think I missed it. Yeah, so everything you need to know before Django. Now I prepared this video for everyone that completed some tutorial about Python, but basically this video will be very helpful if you don't have any experience with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and basically everything that is surrounded with front side of the web development. So I would recommend watching this video, and if you don't have any experience with Django or Flask, and then pick one of those frameworks and start with it. And if you want to start with Django, I have the crash course, and with Flask we have the series, as you know. All right. So Xcode, how to write a program in less lines of code. Example, if a program with 20 lines, you can write it only 10 lines naturally. Okay, so I will create a showing screen for that example, just to show you about it. All right, so let me delete this. Okay, so say that you want to write a sentence about 5 people. So we will say 5 people. I don't know, five friends. That's great. And then we will say something like, so we got 3, we got 4, we got 5. And I'm sorry about that. I really want to make this in PEP8 style. It is very important to me. So we got Alan, we got Jim, and we got, who we got? Give me some names. Joe, and we got Jack, and we have Michael. So now let's say that you want to print a sentence that will say for friend in 5 friends, then you will say something like friend is my best friend. And this took us 2 lines of code, but I could also say something like print, I will go with something like that, print. I could also use something that is called list comprehension to basically have the same behavior. So this will go something like, then I will say a is equal to, and I will open a list, and I will say something like, then we will say print friend for friend in 5 friends. And then I have all the print lines stored in this a variable. So now if I print this, basically I will get both. So as you can see, this was shorter than this one. So I will change this to that one so you can see. And doing this is legal actually. So I will do that. And I'm not sure if I will delete the square brackets, this will work. No, this is not going to work because it has to be wrapped around square brackets, because this is something that is called list comprehension. Now, if I run this, then you can see that this and this are equal, but this is 2 lines and this is a 1 line. So you can have some basic knowledge about list comprehension or one-liners, and those are the best methods to write less lines of code. But this doesn't mean that your code is going to be more readable. Now, to be honest, I will never create something like this, because this is a very long line, and if now I'm a developer that tries to understand some project, then I wouldn't go with having more than 80 characters in single line. So separating your code into more lines is actually great because it makes your code more readable. Now, you might see sometimes people also splitting their functions like that. And this now is 4 lines of code, but you understood the point, because actually splitting your code into more lines could be sometimes more helpful for other people that read your code. So there's nothing wrong with including more lines of code in your project. Top of Tech asks, how do you stay motivated? Okay, so I think about this. This comes, I think, from basically being passionate about programming, and understanding that I really love what I'm doing. Because if I basically had bad time programming, then probably I will quit quicker, and I wouldn't create those videos right now, and I will also not create this live video. But I really like it. I really like doing what I do, and I like to spread the motivation that I have to different technologies, and as well as teaching from my knowledge. And I think the fact that I like doing it is the main point, what really makes me to stay motivated. Thanks for answering my questions, Amir. My country. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So I'm really happy that you learned a lot from me, and this always feels nice. Okay, so Flask was easier for me to learn, but I liked using Django more. So this has to go to my legend editor. So thanks for answering. You know, if anyone learned you something, he is your father. Great quote. Thanks. Okay, so Kartikeyan, thanks Jim. I'll watch them and decide. At the moment, I've been doing your Flask course, and it's great. And we got one final comment from Omer. Thank you for making your guides. Thank you for inspiring to become a better programming, and I hope I can have the knowledge you have one day. Wow, this really, yeah, this really feels great. And thanks for those warm comments. I really appreciate each one of you, and I hope that you enjoyed this one. So I actually like to animate something that I like, and I will do that. So if you enjoyed this live video, then feel free to subscribing to my channel if you already did not. And I hope to see you around in one of my other videos. And if you have some more questions, feel free to connect with me on Twitter, Instagram, basically each social media. And for sure, feel free to join my Discord, and I will see you around in one of my tutorials.